Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of HorseShow360 podcast. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram, HorseShow360, and hit that subscribe button on YouTube, HorseShow360 podcast. We're super excited to continue to provide great episodes for you all, and we've got another great one for today. I'm joined here today with a good friend of mine, Charlie Jayne. Charlie, thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Yeah, this episode is going to be pretty cool. Obviously, Charlie, well, not obviously, but just so y'all know, Charlie's a great friend of mine. We go way, 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 way back, all the way back to our junior years. And definitely, I know a lot of Charlie's history and background and everything, but I think it'd be interesting for all you guys to tune in and hear about it. And also, I want to get into today um, a Charlie and I have had some pretty, I wouldn't call them heated topics, but conversations, but I'd call them, productive and interesting topics regarding horse show fees. And I know this is a bit of a hot topic for everybody nationwide. The sport is definitely getting expensive and all the above. So we'll definitely get into that later. I have some really good information that I know a lot of people would be interested to hear as to why we as in horse show organizers charge what we charge. And I know, Charlie, you know a little bit of that background as well, showing at horse shows your entire life. But first, I want to talk a little bit about you and your background and how you started and what made you get into this sport. I know your family is major into the sport, has been your whole life. But first, tell us a little bit about like how you started. When did you know you were going to continue with this for your life, and just give us general background on yourself.
Yeah. So, hi everybody. Again, like Derek said, my name is Charlie Jayne. I'm just going to give you a 3-minute, 4-minute background. But long story short, I come from an equestrian
You
family.
got time
Uh,
now.
I'm
Make it short.
I'm sixth generation. I think around sixth generation. Um, so I would say
Generation.
equestrian. Yeah, sixth generation. So I would say animals, whether it be large animals or small animals or whatever, has always been in my blood. It hasn't necessarily just been show jumping discipline. My uncles were very into polo growing up in Chicago. They did a little polo, even downtown in Chicago. Um, my grandpa was a little bit into racehorses. And then my dad did a little bit of eventing, 3-day eventing growing up and kind of got high level up there. And my dad actually thought about becoming a vet, and then he landed on show jumping, and that's kind of where my dad landed. Fast forward a little bit, he had 3 kids, myself being in the middle, and I have 2 sisters, my older sister, my younger sister. So growing up, um, we all competed in the junior career scene for show jumping. We
We
all
competed against each other.
Yep,
You're a
absolutely.
couple years younger than I am. You just turned
Yeah.
39. Uh,
Yep.
so you're
Yep.
about a year and a half younger than me. And I remember at being juniors, like all of our whole friend group and everything, we all competed against each other, shooting for the same things.
Yep.
Expedition championships, junior jumper champion, national championships, all those same things.
I mean, I'm gonna be honest here. At the beginning, when I was 5, 6, or 7, I wanted to do every sport. I did soccer, I did baseball, I tried out for basketball, but I was very short, so I didn't make it.
You grew.
But then around pony finals when I was 9 or 10 years old, um, that was like a turning point for me. I didn't win or anything. I had a lot of fun. It was a great experience, pony hunter finals. It kind of brought all the kids from around the nation together in one place, which is something we can go into later. And I don't know, that was a turning point for me where I was like, you know what, this is a lot of fun. You meet a lot of people from a lot of different backgrounds, nationally and internationally. Uh, and then from my family blood, there's a competitive side, and I do kind of well in this sport. I have since a young age, and that kind of skyrocketed me. My junior career was pretty successful, and then I've been fortunate enough to have one or two very good sponsors. My first decade as a professional from like 18 to 28, which kind of helped me go from the junior ranks into the international scene. And then, yeah, just been kind of continuing on from that. But I'm really excited to talk to Derek about kind of everything today. That's kind of my background.
You kinda skimmed through that really fast. I think there was there was a lot more in between, I feel like. Yeah, I mean, I think you're definitely right. I mean, there's I think the beauty of this sport is that there's really a path for everybody regardless of what it is. There's opportunity for everybody in this business and the sport dependent on the direction. I think a little bit like yourself, like having a lot of success as a junior rider sort of sets you on that trajectory and that path to say, "Wait, I can maybe make a life of this. I can do more." And then once you're done being a junior, you got to find that experience and that niche to see really what direction do you want to go? Do you want to have a big training business? Do you want to have a big dealing sales business? Do you want to have a little bit of both? Do you want to focus on yourself and make it to the top sport? You know, and all those things kind of factor in the direction of, you have to recognize what your talents are, right? Those kind of things. You can dabble in a little bit of everything. I think there's only really a few people that do a little bit of everything really well. I think um, the ones that really are at the top of everything, whether it be either you're at the top of the sport, or you're at the top of the training side of the sport, or you're at the top of the dealing. The best ones in the industry kind of like focus on one of those, even though they may dabble in a little bit of the others, don't you think?
I have to agree with that. And also, we all start off for the love of the animal and the love of the sport. And most of the people, not all of them, but a lot of the people start off swinging their leg over the saddle and actually riding. But that kind of can fall into so many different categories. I've had friends growing up that rode that then became horse show managers, like yourself. I've had friends growing up that have now become in the vendor industry, in the equestrian industry. I mean, there's so many different facets that even when I'm 18 years old, young, naive, and just riding, my sole focus was that. But to see um, how many different revenue streams there are in this in the sport industry of the equestrianism is pretty incredible. And there's so many, you can like, just to give you an example, my main focus, 18 to 26 was making championship teams. I did a pretty good job of that. I made it to 4 indoor championships, being World Cup
How many Nations Cups
finals.
have you been on?
I think like 12 or 13, won a few of those, got to travel around the world, went to the Olympics in London in 2012, went to the World Championships 2014. Now, fast forward just a little bit now from, let's say, in my 30s, because I'm now rear ending the end of my 30s. I'm realizing there's
Interesting way to
so
put it.
much opportunity, whether it be real estate aspect of it, or
Wait a
so many
sec.
different.
You keep
Yeah.
skipping so many areas and decades. Okay? Like, let's talk about this for a sec. So you're in your 20s, and because I think people really like people like to hear these kind of trajectories, because I think it's really important for people coming up or even people starting late or something like that. I think people want to see like how it works in this industry and the steps it takes to make it through life in this industry. It can be kind of daunting, but I think pivoting priorities is like a really beneficial way to look at life. So when you're in your 20s, you're thinking to yourself, I'm young, I'm strong, I'm fit, I'm all the above. And
I'm
you
invincible. I can do
yeah,
anything.
you
Yeah.
say, you can jump the biggest jumps in the world. You want to travel the world. You want to see everything. You want to do everything. Before you get to the point where you're kind of like, I'm considering settling down a little bit more. You obviously have a beautiful family. You have 2 amazing kids right now. One that's 3, AJ, and one that's 6 months, right?
Yeah.
Baby Jack.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
definitely your life has changed dramatically. So then you hit 30, you're in the mode of probably still having good clients and good sponsors and everything like that. But is there something inside of you when you're 30 where you're saying like you want a little bit more out of life? Is that what kind of the threshold that kind of changed for you, or?
Yeah, I mean, so I got married in 2020, so 5 years ago, but I've been with my wife for over 10 years now. And I think when we started saying that we wanted to have a family, it was a little more like, I don't need to travel quite as much. I don't need to,
So
you
literally
know,
right at like 30, you guys were dating for a year at the
yep.
time.
Yep.
And then, your perspective started to shift a little.
Yeah, and like I said, also I think when you have a good partner, and I think that Derek can say this or anyone can say this, you kind of see a clearer path, and then so many opportunities I feel like present themselves if you both are aligned in a positive direction. And that's how I feel like Nicole and I view life. And we're very fortunate that we have two amazing kids, and we're looking to expand our family and continue to have more children. And with that, I
Beware of
think
the
we
Jane
just
herd coming down in the future years. It's gonna be like a whole
and
school. It's like gonna be a school of fish
yeah,
at the
I
shows.
think when I turned 30, I just started to redirect the um not necessarily I want to still focus on my career, but also what avenues can I do it while being able to maximize the amount of time with my family. My family is very important. That was instilled to me since I was born with my family, and now I'm trying to do the same. I always try to have breakfast early before I leave for the barn. I always try to make it home by 5 to have dinner with my family. It's pretty important. Derek, I know you're the same way, and I feel like a lot of people in our industry, uh, that is special. That sometimes we are able to spend more time with our family, whether it be homeschooling or because we share a similar discipline. Coming to the shows and traveling to great cities and doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I have literally my next question on my list for you is how hard is it juggling family life with um your goals? And I feel like at like the age of 35 too, um, it seems like for you that definitely kind of really shifted. I think you know, I think it's really difficult. I mean, and I think everybody would agree with that. I mean, I don't think in general the premise is difficult because you know what you want, you know what you want to prioritize. But I think it takes years. Like at least it took me years.
It
And
takes it. Yeah, I mean,
and I had
decades.
Esme when my daughter when she's 13 now, so when I was in my 20s, and my perspective really started changing then, so a little bit earlier than you, but in general, it takes years to really like shift yourself into a different mindset to say, when you have the family, you kind of realize, okay, I'm not speaking for everybody, but I know for myself that when you have the family, you say, you really have to prioritize that. Like you're saying, you have to make different kind of sacrifices, and your goals and your life trajectory really change depending on what your family dynamic is. No?
Absolutely. I mean, I think what I've learned from even being on teams with great male and female athletes is in one of the two Olympics that I was a part of. My one teammate was 17 years old. My other teammate was in their late 50s. So, I mean, this is a sport where you continue to evolve and grow, not only as an athlete, but as a person. And that I think you'll see that'll help with your training, that'll help with your whether you be horse show managing, and that'll just help. I think growing as a person is a huge part of it. And then as you grow, I feel like, yeah, I mean, like you said, priorities change. It's not that your goals are different; it's just how you get there are different. And I think I was very optimistic in the last championship I did. Um, I I was the youngest athlete at, I don't know, 24 or 26 on the U.S. team. But again, one of the athletes that I looked up to and is still doing the top sport was in their mid 50s. So I think I was able to say, okay, right now I want to focus on um, buying some assets and focusing on my family and really setting some roots, and then seeing how that evolves together with my show business as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's juggling for every individual's in individual families' needs too. Like, how much money can you earn doing certain things while prioritizing your family, spending enough time with your family, giving them enough attention and everything. And everybody's different. Some people do it, they work harder, spend less time with their family. I'm not saying that's bad. Some people do it, they spend more time with their family and do less work, depending on what they're comfortable with accomplishing. And I think that those, just finding that perfect balance is never easy, is a constant work in progress. And I think that people really like to hear different perspectives on how to make that happen and how to juggle it. Because in reality, if you choose to prioritize your family more and more, which I literally, I think people would be surprised to hear it, but I feel like I continually want to try to do that. I think you do the same. Um, you have to curb your goals a little bit. I mean, you do. I mean, realistically, because you look at the people that are at the top echelon of the sport, like, you mean like, let's call top 10 riders, top 50 riders in the world. To get there, you have to sacrifice a lot. Like, you have to give up, you probably have to give up some of the family life to do that. I think only a few people do it. A few people do it well. Off the top of my head, I can think of a few, but it's not easy
Oh, I mean, to be top 10 rider in the world right now, if there's how many ever weeks in the year, you're
every
showing
week.
minimum, yeah, 46 weeks of the year. And those shows, a lot of them, if they're in a different country, if you're European, you're leaving Tuesday or Wednesday morning, not getting home till Sunday night. So for sure, there's so much travel, like a professional athlete, whether
Mhm.
you're on a baseball team or a soccer team, whatever, there's so much travel involved. That's one of the nice things I have to say about winter circuits that we can get into when we start to get into more horse shows and office fees that are really nice. And anyone can say that. I don't care if you're Henrik von Eckermann or whatever, to be able, or Kean O'Connor, or the bottoms or the tops were, to be in one place competing for amount of time longer than 1 week feels like a lot for these athletes, and this
Yep.
is
Yep.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah, that's I don't know, it's just, I couldn't do it, I couldn't be away from home 40 weeks out of the year, that kind of thing. I mean, I already travel a lot with the events that we do, but in the grand scheme of things, it's not that much. I've said on future past episodes that, my family decides to roll together. That's just how we do it. We know that it's part of the game, part of the life that we decided, the sacrifice we decided to have the business that we're in organizing horse shows, not in one spot. I have shifted just like yourself. I've shifted to organizing horse shows a lot, most of them in Kentucky, so I could be home. And they could be home, and my son and daughter can come out to the show and see me during the day, and still have that family dynamic and feeling. And that's just super important to us for our dynamic. And I know you've created your own. So you're basing in Wellington half the year, and then where else?
So I have based historically growing up. It would be Chicago, about 40 minutes outside Chicago for the summer months. Now the last 3 seasons I've based out of Lexington, Kentucky, down the road from you, and I've owned a couple properties in the last 3 years there, and love Lexington, love the location, love that within a half a day drive you can get to pretty much any of the East Coast shows with ease, and Nicole and I and our family are foodies, love the restaurants there. So that's most likely where we're going to end up again this summer. And we really like it there. And then we come back here around November, and then they're here in the winter months in Wellington, Florida.
Yeah, Kentucky. I'm just gonna make a unashamed plug for Kentucky. Kentucky is my home, and it's our headquarters. Our Split Rock headquarters are in downtown Lexington. But yeah, you're so right. I mean, the best thing about Lexington is that it is so central. It's so accessible. It's fairly expensive compared to anywhere else that a lot of the summer hubs are. When you look at Chicago and Michigan and the Northeast and all these areas, I mean, they really are so ridiculously expensive. Kentucky is sort of a little bit of a break from that. There's a lot of horse shows. You can eat good food, you can do all the things, you can have peace on your farm. It's just the best. For what we do, I think it's the best.
Uh,
Anyway, yeah,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
agree?
Yeah, I
Like,
mean, so far this will be our fourth summer, but I have to say I do love it. And there's a lot of foot traffic. You have a lot of it's hard to, when you in the wintertime you see everybody because you're in a couple locations. You're in, a few locations and you're all in the same state. But in the summertime, you're traveling and shows that aren't as big and you're trying to do business and all like that. The nice thing about Kentucky is you have foot traffic. You have a lot of people coming through those 4 or 5 months of the summertime, and
yeah.
that is important for trainers.
Well, and there's like, now junior hunter finals, pony finals, derby finals, green incentive
Incentive
finals, and
finals,
now
the
amateur
National
hunter
Horse
finals.
Show,
So
regionals. I mean, the list goes on and on.
everybody's kind of hitting Kentucky at some point for something, which is pretty unique and cool. The headquarters of USCF and USHA are there, so it makes a lot of sense. All right, let's get into the meat of the podcast episode here. You and I have had some interesting conversations and surprisingly differing views. So that's why I wanted to have you on here for this particular episode. I could have had, I'm sure, a number of people, but you and I have had some pretty good conversations on this. So let's get into it. I've got some good information for people when it comes to fees and why, this has been such a hot topic. I think it really kind of came up during the COVID time when people had a lot of time to sit back, really look at everything, and costs in general are, it's a hot topic for everything, not just the equestrian industry. Look, eggs, the price of those
Inflation,
eggs.
inflation.
Luckily, gas prices have gone down dramatically lately, so that's great. And hopefully other things continue to. But, and I won't get political in this, but in general, I do have a little bit of an issue. Like, look, I've had to find a way to afford doing and being in this industry, in this sport, my whole life. When we choose to do a sport, and this may be a controversial statement, but when we choose to do a sport of this caliber at this level, and I want to be clear about that. When I say at this level, I choose to do equestrian events at a certain level, at a high level. Like that's what burns inside of me. I want to try to be the best at running events at a very high level. I've made that choice. Now, there are other types of events and lower level events and other things that are so vital to the industry and provide such an important either feeder system for everybody that it's all needed. And I've done a variety. My first horse shows ever, okay, were so simple. And I did it for 3 years. I did schooling shows on my farm, 2-day shows, 1-day jumpers, 1-day hunters, 2-day jumpers, ship in only, $30 for people. I mean, you can't show cheaper in America than what I did starting out. And I did it to learn my craft and organizing events. And I still dabble in that occasionally. During COVID, I did a similar in the Alltech Arena at the Kentucky Horse Park. Um, 1-day hunter, 1-day jumper schooling show because there was nothing going on for people. That was great. I mean, I enjoy doing those things and I think it's really needed. Just my business has gone into, and my passion is organizing high level events. Now, with that being said, everything you do in this industry is to scale. And what I mean by that, if you're doing it at a really high level, okay, no matter what you're doing, whether you're doing a, a high level horse show, whether you're trying to do high level, high performance sport, whether you're trying to do show jumping or hunters, or if you're trying to have an extremely luxury vendor booth at horse shows, it doesn't matter what you do, it's going to cost money and it's going to cost more money the more you increase your level in anything. And I think that's a really important point before we start this hot topic because, you know, I chalk it up to business. Like, if you want to do anything at a high level or in big business, it's going to cost you more money. So I want to start it out with that because I get a lot of flack and I got a lot of flack my first 5 years of running horse shows. And I'm happy to say that I know all the other events in America's prices. Like you know that I look into that kind of stuff and I compare myself because I'm actually quite sensitive to what our price point is, because I want people to trust me and my horse shows that we're going to provide exactly what they expect and need out of a horse show. But I also don't want to fall into being the most expensive. I want to be kind of just below that, honestly. That's where I can really afford to be. And for me, I think people really I did a big episode early on horse show costs, which is a little bit similar to this, but I want to specifically talk about the added fees that are added onto like a horse show bill or little things and why we have to do them a little bit more in depth. Um, so how do you respond to me saying like we're doing this at a high level? You're choosing to show it really high level horse shows all the time. You want to present your horses in a high level way, produce them in a high level way. So, what's your feeling on added fees and all that thing onto your bill? Do you really heavily
So
look at that when you check out of a horse
yeah,
show?
so
Do you
so first off, like you're talking at it, and when feel like that we are friends and it works is because we can debate, and I think people are going to about to hear that right now. But you're talking at it because you said this is a business, right? And you're a business as a show manager, and a business either it makes money or if it's not subsidized, it fails and it goes away. And we
cancel
don't
3
want
shows
great.
this year? Yeah.
Correct. And we don't want great shows like Split Rock, or I can name a whole bunch of shows around the world to go away. At the same time, growing up, when I was, let's say, 8 to 18, I won. That's what I did. It was ingrained in my blood, whatever. When I won at horse shows, whether it be the small pony hunters jumping the smallest you can at the show, or the junior hunters, which would be 3'6", or the highest for when I did it was 140, the high juniors. If you won in that division, you walked away without a bill. Normally there'd be a little credit. I'm not saying you're making bank. You're not really covering maybe, well, the traveling costs if you have your own truck and trailer or whatever, the gas, whatever, but you would at least not be walking away with a bill from the show. Okay. So now, fast forward, this is a business for us too, because I'm a professional. So now let's fast forward to 2 decades. Now, a professional can walk into two 130 classes, whether it be at Split Rock or at Wellington Showgrounds or at Hits or at WAC or any of these showgrounds. A professional could win both 130 classes, and their bill for the week would still be close to $1,000. That, from a professional side, I don't understand how the cost has gone from flat, which means you were breaking even, to about pretty similar to if you were last in the class or if you were first in the class. And you could say, oh, maybe that's just for the 130 section, which is like that's in the middle of the road. And I understand your process of, okay, if you're jumping 0.65 or if you're jumping baby green hunters or you're jumping a low level, I don't necessarily think there should be prize money. And that is okay. Maybe there's no nominating fees for those classes, so it's a little bit cheaper, but I understand that. What I don't understand is when you get to even junior hunters, which is a high level for a hunter division, and they can win 4 out of the 5 classes, and their bill still costs close to $1,000. I think there needs to be some sort of looking into that. I don't understand. The same can be said for FEI. 2014, I'm just going to take you back a decade ago. The finale class in Wellington, not at Hits, was a $500,000 class. They just upgraded it to 500. I showed 2 horses in that FEI division. It cost me $5,000. So if I was 4th in the first class of the week, 3rd, I covered 1 horse. But if I got a ribbon in the Grand Prix, I covered both horses. Fast forward a decade later to 2024. We are still jumping for 500,000 for the finale. It's upgraded this year. We're still jumping for 5,000. And I'm just saying WEF because I know the numbers. I'm not targeting WEF. It's the same at any of these other shows. The entry fee is now $10,000 for 3 horses in a 5-star. So again, that's hard for me to swallow. You can win a ranking class on your 2nd or 3rd horse, a D ranking, and not pay for even the show bill for the week. I find that hard to swallow as a professional. I understand inflation, the costs have probably doubled, but the prize money is not doubled. So now we're a little bit, and the hotels have doubled. so we're a little bit like a, a standoff here, and I understand your process, but what I'm not following all of it. So explain it to me now after I just gave you a little bit
Well,
where
yeah.
my head's
So I
at.
did an episode completely on the overarching costs of a horse show,
Yeah.
and the overarching costs of a horse show. I think people were really shocked to hear all the different aspects. Like in my June events, I have $600,000 worth of um, literal staffing costs. Like it goes on and on and on and on and on, and it's exponential. And running horse shows are extremely expensive. I think that that's why the industry has sort of corrected itself in the way, I'm not saying in a good way, to only big circuits. And I have definitely a couple little opinions on one off and two off special horse shows to big circuits. And it plays a really big factor in exactly what you're talking about. One off and two off horse shows have unique expenses compared to monster circuits. I'm not saying monster circuits don't have the same expenses, they just have more time to offset them. Okay.
The
So
marginal cost
yeah,
calculate all the weeks.
exactly. So if you're running 10 weeks in a row or 13 weeks in a row, like a Michigan, like a WEF, like a Thermal, like a Socrates, I don't know, whatever.
Winter circuit, summer
Any
circuit,
big
circuits.
circuit out there, regardless of winter circuit or not, you can incrementally week over week over week get past those incremental expenses that are so expensive upfront. And upfront can be 1, 2, 3 weeks. Like if you're having to deal with those expenses within a 3 week span, it's bleeding you dry. Like cost of tents, tent rentals, stall rentals, hospitality tents, vendor tent, like all the different things that go into producing a quality show. So we've been through that. So that's one. Now, speaking about directly about your circuit, so like for you on in the middle of a winter circuit, the fact that you can't pay for that horse if that one horse wins 2 meter 30 classes, I agree with you. That's ridiculous. Although I would argue that a meter 30 class is not necessarily a money making professional class. You know what I mean? I get
I
your
mean,
point.
it's a developing class. Yes.
Developing class is
Yes.
how I would do it. So you're trying to produce for a different
Yeah.
type of goal or accomplish or rebuild or gain confidence. It's not really a class that you would ever expect there to be a lot of prize money in. Maybe once a week, occasionally you might have something a little extra. But I think it's important also to understand realistically where an organizer can try to break even. Okay. So you specifically said a meter 30 class. All right. Perfect example. Okay. And I'm not trying to make you feel bad for us or whatnot. I'm just telling you the truth. In a meter 30 class, that I give out $500 in prize money. Okay. When we're working within the rules of everything in USCF and how much we're charging for what, $500 is actually a threshold to where our entry fee by margin can actually be the most. Anything above $500, I believe it's like 1 or 2% that is the maximum you can charge. So there's definitely a limit on what you can charge above that. So for instance, if you're giving out $500 in prize money and the entry fee to compete in that class is $75, like, I'm sorry, if you're at a big horse show, you can't go compete in a class for less than $60 or $75. Like, if you are, you're getting an insanely good deal. Like, the amount of costs that go into producing a horse show is just so extreme that you have to charge for providing the service to people. Okay, so you have the jump rentals, you have everything that goes into it. So let's call it, for that meter 30 class at that level, $75 entry fee. Okay, you have, what does that tell you? You have to have 6, 7, 8 horses in it to break even on the prize money, right? Not covering anything else. So you have that. Then if you have 30 in it, then that event is breaking even, and you're making on that class $2,500 or $3,000, right? That's not a lot of money in the grand scheme of things. And then over the course of a horse show, you have a bunch of different classes and events that shuffle itself in to breaking even and all the above. So if you're talking a high level horse show like a WEF or something, because that's what you commented on, I don't know off the top of my head how much prize money they're probably giving out $1 million in prize money a week. So you have to add every class that they have together. If that one class is making 2,500, another one is losing 1,000, another one may be making 3,000, another one might be making 4,000, and another one might be making 200. You have to tally that all up to cover all your costs. You know what I mean? So there are some classes, Charlie, that you have to get ahead on. I can't just offer $5,000 in all. No, but it's important perspective because I feel you. You're saying I used to be able to do this, but times have changed and costs, gasoline, inflation, facility rentals have gone up. All sorts of rentals have inflated. And actually, I would argue I went through a really turning point this year in Kentucky to where a threshold where I actually think stall prices in Kentucky are below the standard average now. And it's like, well, the Kentucky Horse Park keeps, which, okay, it's a very good facility. I'm not blaming them for continuing to raise their prices because their costs are higher. It costs them more to get the muck removed from the only company available in the region to do it. So there's, I get why they're raising their prices, but, publicly, we're having to stay at a certain stall price level because we're afraid of getting ridiculed for raising our prices. So our margins keeps getting squeezed and squeezed and squeezed and squeezed lower. So to answer your point directly about the meter 30 thing, I don't disagree with you. Like if you win a couple classes at a horse show, that horse should pay for their bill. But I think it should be a little bit more methodical than that. Okay. And hear me out. A 1 or 2 or 3 off horse show. You've heard my reasons as to why in previous episodes and a little bit this one. I think it's harder for those shows. Okay. It's harder for those shows to give out more prize money in the classes you're discussing. That's one point. At a big circuit, and I'm saying this knowing that maybe one day I organize a big circuit. Those classes should be more money at a big circuit. I agree with you. Though, like when you have 100 in it, okay, or when you have 100 in it for 12 weeks straight or 15 weeks straight, or I don't know, like you could give out $1,500, not 500. You could give out 2,500, not 500. Won't really break the bank on the horse show, but it'll get you what you're looking for. Now,
So you're kind of talking add back a little bit esque,
I'm
right?
not talking ad back, but just
Okay.
what's the threshold for that first through third place prizes to get you to the point where you can pay your bill on that horse?
Yeah.
That's all I'm talking about, but yet not losing the horse show too much money. So that's something I think that equestrian events it's a business. So, that could be looked into, maybe that's not the area um, they can grow their business and everything. Like I completely understand that, but I'm just saying it's not all equal for every event, every location, every area to be able to do that. It's just not
And,
feasible
and
sometimes.
I know I said meter 30 for me. I have a hunter competing at the A circuit in one of the Ocala shows, and it won 3 classes last week out of 4 in a prize money division graded
Professional or amateur?
professional.
Okay.
And it won 3 out of the 4 classes. My bill was still $700. Now I understand part of that's the stall and the hay and shavings and all that stuff. But even taking the stall and the hay shavings out, it's still not covering its bill in a division that had 46 in it. So I'm not just saying the 130 division, but also in the higher tier 100 divisions too. You used to be able to get a credit for the week at the end of your bill if you did that, and now you're still getting a bill. And
Yeah.
I don't know what the right. I understand what inflation. I understand everything went up, but it seems like the cost of everything has gone up, but the prize money has not followed that. Does that make sense to you?
Hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think that's pretty evident in Wellington. I mean, the Grand Prix is
Yeah.
like, I remember Tom Schazeri. You and I have talked about this. Tom Schazeri used to run $1 million Grand Prix like Skittles back in the day. And
Yeah.
how could the biggest circuit in the world not not be on par with the highest prize money Grand Prix in the world. That just mind boggles me. I'm not trying to knock anybody. They do an amazing
No.
job.
Yeah.
I think that that's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I think the prize money should be triple what it is in the Grand Prix down there because the level's the highest. And anyway, so, but there's a couple different points, and we might need to get into another podcast over this. We might be able to need to do this next Monday again because this could go on a while. So you touched on, and I asked you the question: was it a junior or an amateur? Okay,
Yeah.
because I've stated my opinion on this, and I'm sure people might hate me on this, but I even though I give the prize money to juniors and amateurs, a ton of it and all the above, I still don't understand why our sport gives juniors and amateurs prize money. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me logically. Like, you're talking about having a professional, okay? You're a professional. You're talking about you as a professional. You're making a living out of doing this, and you need to pay your expenses. I can totally rationalize with that. Like, that's just business, okay? If you're doing something, you want to be able to at least pay your bills and do your things and that kind of thing. Like, but if you're doing it as a hobby, okay, which is what a junior and an amateur are doing, you're doing it as a hobby. Like,
I was
this
there.
might not be this might
Yeah.
not be a perfect analogy, but I
Yeah.
pay a fees for my son to go do soccer practice, and he's 4 years old. Like,
Yeah.
I don't understand, and there is
But the
no
difference
scenario
is,
for him until he
but
turns pro to make money.
but the difference is he can't sell that soccer ball for X amount of dollars. But when I was 8 years old, similar age to your son, and I rode a pony and it won, I could sell that pony for X amount of dollars. So that was a business. Even though I wasn't making the money, because I was successful, that still becomes a business.
But I'm
So
talking
again,
about sheer on the sponsorship side. Not
okay,
sponsorship, on the competition side. So if you're just
okay.
looking on the competition side, you do not see amateur golfers that compete in the Masters do not get, even if they place in the top 20, they get the prestige. They don't get money. They're working their way to being a professional, to being able to earn money. Okay? Like, this, and it's costing them money on the way to get to those points, to have a trainer, have a coach, have a lessons, and playing collegiate school. Like, all these things cost money. So maybe not at the same scale of having horses. I understand that, like, horses are very expensive, but if you choose to do it, you know that going in. I just don't understand why. um it's interesting because you can't give out prize money in the equitation division, you know? But why can you give out, why? I don't understand why somebody along the line, I don't know who, to be honest, I probably should, um, came up with the fact that you can't give out prize money in equitation, but you can give out, like, now in new incentives or like trainer bonuses, but, like, which makes sense to me. That makes a lot of sense to me. Like, let's reward the people that are professionals that are making it, training these people. Like, I can get my head around that, but I still can't get it. Why am I giving small pony hunters prize money?
Like I said, like yes, there are amateurs in it, but there are also juniors that are working for professionals or professionals that send their horses to
That's
juniors.
yeah, that's
You know what I'm saying?
that's a
No,
slippery slope. And they can make the money off of the selling of the, maybe not the junior, but the trainer and the parents can make money off of selling
that's business. I don't think that's a slippery slope. I
No,
mean,
that's
that's part of our
fine.
industry.
That's what I mean,
Yeah.
that's fine, but I'm talking about just the competition. Like, I don't understand why that little 8-year-old on the small pony hunter needs to earn, $55 for winning that small pony class. Like,
I
to me,
mean,
that makes no sense.
let's say you show 15 shows a year. It's the difference of additional 15,000 of costs, whether you
The
have to sell the
reason
horse in
is
1 month or in 15 months.
but the reason is to help pay those bills because the connotation with equestrian sport is expensive. That's the
Okay.
reason, and that's where that started. I don't even know when ago, 30, 50, 40, 50 years ago, that we started giving out prize money in these little classes. So I do think equitation, somebody, whoever came up with that about not charging for or giving out prize money in equitation was onto something. I think now this correlates big time, okay, which I think you're going to be able to understand. If and I said this on a previous podcast, if I didn't have to give out all the prize money that I needed to give out to compete with other events or make the exhibitors happy in the junior amateur divisions only, I would be able to charge them less. So it's not just like, oh, hey, I'm not going to give out any prize money, but your bill's still going to be $1,200 a week for that horse. No, that's my point. If I didn't have to give out in June $200,000 a week in prize money just to juniors and amateurs, okay, think about how much exponentially I could lower their costs and their fees. Their
I,
entry fees would be cut in
I,
half.
but my slippery slope is, as a person, whether I was a professional, which I am, or a junior and amateur, to be able to win out of 40 horses and get rewarded with financial compensation, I think there's some competitiveness in that. And I think if you take that away for hugs and kisses, that kind of defeats a little bit of, the
That's what
drive,
it's
the feel.
for.
I
It's for prestige. It's a horse show.
okay, but you keep calling it a sport. And if you're taking away prize money, is it a sport? You know?
Of course. So you're saying, hasn't AJ started tennis and soccer?
Uh
Do you expect
he
him
he started playing
do
soccer,
you
yeah.
do you expect him to earn prize money before he goes pro in any of those?
I mean, college now, they're selling their name
N
rights
n
in
name,
college, right?
image, and likeness, different.
Image and likeness, yeah.
That's sponsorship.
Okay.
Okay, so that's one avenue maybe, yes. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
That might be, well, maybe others, maybe they should start allowing that into this sport
They
instead of
they already
in
are a
in
little bit with the juniors with some of the
okay.
brands.
But I don't think it's ever been brought up that, you know, the amount that we are now, the high level events are required, and not even required by the federations, but required by the industry standards of where it's become. In order to compete as a horse, you have to give out a certain amount of money and do all the different things. So, like, my point is if people took a step back and was like, okay, let's start with the juniors and amateurs. Let's reel that in. Let's come up with a model similar to the equitation divisions, and let's figure out how to make it cost less for them. Well, you're talking about the people that win. You're like, I want to be able to pay my bill if my horse wins and this and that with whatever. Okay, but what I'm
It's but I think that trains the way you think about life. Like in business, if you win or you're doing well, you're getting compensated for it. I think that will travel on from a junior on to be successful in whatever endeavor you choose to do. But I think if you reward it with, you know, a participation award, that's not I don't know.
it's
I
not a
don't fall
purchase.
into
It's
that.
not a participation award. I mean, I
Okay.
remember the things that my accolades as a junior, like you discussed in the beginning. The
Yeah.
only ones I remember, I didn't win prize money.
USEF finals.
USEF finals, junior
Yeah.
pre to states.
There was prize money pre-states, but yeah.
Was there
Yeah. Yeah.
back then?
Well, maybe not back then. There is now.
Okay. I don't think
Yeah.
so. There was. I mean, we
Yeah.
were talking 20 something years ago.
Yeah.
But like yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess when you're a professional, you remember those things, but like I just feel like if you're under 18 years old and you're an amateur competing in the amateur hunters or things like this, like you're doing it because you love the horses. If you want that champion, I know at a horse show, like my ribbons are so freaking cool at our horse shows. Thank you. But they want that photo, man. It's not about that little check that they get for, and it just isn't, Charlie. I threw $300,000 free money at people over the past several years in a
Look,
championship series that I created, and they didn't care.
I listen, I'm probably talking about the 3 to 5% of people that actually win in their division, right? Let's say 3 to 5% of the people actually win. But that could be the difference in the 3 to 5% that's winning, that's able to pay their bills. that are the best in the industry to be able to make it, or the best actually don't grow and make it because they can't afford it? I'm
Okay,
just
so
saying.
you're in a unique situation because you've won a lot. Okay, now hear me out.
Okay.
This is a really good point
Okay.
because
Okay.
I've made different decisions with my FEI fees in according to that premise. Okay, and I'm going to
Okay.
relate both sides, the national stuff and the junior amateur stuff, to that. Okay, so when I think it's more important for the entire group in the division that win or lose. Now, being a horse show organizer, seeing, feeling, and talking to everyone, not just the winners, I think it's more important for, let's say there's 30 in a class and there's only 3 that make anything good money, okay, in prize money. I think it's more important for, as a whole, all the people in that class to be happy and feel like they were productive in some sort of way. Now, when you get to the high level FEI level,
That's the one
it's
percent you're
it's
talking.
it's
Yeah.
it's always been my I'm very unique when I do my draft schedules, okay? That you have, I don't know if people know that, but you have 2 choices of percentiles and prize money you can give. You can give, if the total prize money is, let's say, 100,000, you give you can choose between whether it's a 25 percentile or a 33 percentile prize money scale. Now, if you give the 33 percentile scale, which means the winner wins 33%, okay, of the prize money, then the winner takes the biggest majority of the pot, and then it falls a lot quicker. So 12th place is the last person that gets prize money, gets a lot less money. Now, if you choose the 25 percentile, the winner gets a little less, and then the ones at the end make more. So now it's really important to me and those people. The winner is always happy, in my opinion. The winner is always happy. It's the people that are lower down, the people that are in 8th place, 9th place, 10th place, and beyond,
And
that deserve a shot to be happy.
it deserves shots to be happy, yes. But if it changes between paying the bills or not, I, like I said in FEI, if you were to do a 25% scale at
So you're saying if
FEI,
you're a loser,
at
tough luck.
no, at the 5-star level, okay,
A
you
loser
can
in that
win the
class.
ranking class and not pay your week. Take it down a notch. Here, I can win a meter 30 class. The winner is getting 18% now. Back in the day, historically, it used to be 30%. And it's going back to your formula, which says spread the wealth to the bottom half and pay down the list. If I have 79 in it and I don't hit the 80, who SCF requires I have to pay 1 for every 4 athletes. So instead of me having to come up with more prize money, I'm just going to take it off the top and spread it down to the bottom. That's where I feel like I can understand your point, but do you see my perspective of what I'm talking about?
Yeah. I mean, I see it.
It,
I just there's so many things we can talk about this. You still have time to keep going, or do you want to table it and do it another time as well and
well,
finish this all?
just what time is it right now? So I know.
It's 10:56.
I can go 10 more minutes
Or the 10 more
yeah.
minutes and see where we're at. If not, we do another
Okay.
episode. It's good because I got a lot of fees to read. I got a lot of fees to read. But anyway, that's my point that I just genuinely feel like, just so people know out there, I can adjust my fees if the industry standards don't require me to give out so much in certain areas. And I think it's a really important point. I don't know that it'll change. I don't think it'll change. But I just want people to rationalize those things and why we charge what we charge, and what and how. And that's really important. Let me get in. I have a list right here, okay, of all the different fees. I'm just gonna read them out. You write it down, pinpoint if there's something in there that you want to talk about, okay? Um, okay. I have the best horse show secretary in the industry, so she makes me all these lists. Lindsay, thank you. Shout out. So we have to pay, and this is just the cost of doing business. I have absolutely no problem with it, and I'm happy to do it. We have to pay USCF fees, USHEA fees, FEI fees, facility fees. Don't forget, we have to pay paramedics, night watch, ambulances, those kind of things. So let's start with that. So After there are all different types of classes for hosting different types of classes at the different federations, right? We have to pay those fees for being able to host those classes. But let's just go on like a horse show bill first before we get into those other fees. Okay, a horse show bill, you have an entry deposit, which is understandable. It's like a restaurant sometimes or other things. Or a hotel, you put a deposit down for your stall. It's not huge. Like in June, we do 150 now. It used to be bigger. People gave me pushback. That's an entry deposit for reserving your stalls. I think that that's pretty standard and fair. That goes towards your stall fee, right? If you end up coming to the horse show, don't cancel late, you know, that gets credited to your bill. No problem. Then we have a facility fee. Facility fee is intended to cover all of the inflated prices that have happened recently that are impossible to ignore. Gasoline, manure removal, uh, labor price increase, all anything you can imagine that have increased over the years now. Office fee is pretty important because I don't think people realize how much this office team and our office teams work even before they show up at the horse show. I mean, you're talking, I my office team starts a year out working on a single event and preparing the prize list and taking entries and communicating with exhibitors like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for up to 4 to 6 months out of a horse show. So that's just so people know there's that. You have a paramedic fee. That is literally translated onto the exhibitor because that cost is the cost. So if it's $10, $15, $20 at a horse show, that's what it's costing to have the appropriate amount of paramedics with the 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 appropriate equipment for horse and in human safety. Like I am not a non-negotiator on that. That is, we have to have everything available at anybody's disposal for safety. Night watch, same thing. Same thing. What we're charging, we're paying those guys to walk around at night, check on the horses, make sure everybody's safe and secure. And also the horse ambulance that goes into that kind of same thing. Like that is not somewhere to scrimp on, and I choose to not scrimp on. And that's a monster additional expense. It's not cheap to do it really well, right? And then you have the stalls. Um, you have a late entry fee. I just described why people charge a late entry fee. It's not just a way to make extra money. It is because it is a pain in the butt to get late entries. And it is really hard to plan a horse show and how much you need to put into the horse show and how much you need to plan for in a horse show if people enter late. So please enter and at least give stall counts as early as possible. Trust me, it helps, it helps, it helps, it helps. And you don't get charged $50 for a late entry fee. You have that. Nomination fees for jumping a certain level, like you were discussing before. Non-showing fees. I think non-showing fees are important for some and can be flexible for some. I say that because a lot of barns go from show to show to show to show and don't have a home base. So they have extra non-showing fees. I'm always actually a little flexible with people on this fee, depending on the situation. But I also think it's really important when you're at a really busy horse show. If you have groups with monster non-showing, bringing non-showing horses, that's taking space away from us having competing horses. So I think it's important to really have a fee for that. You have shipping fees if you're not buying a stall. Actually, in Kentucky, I am very sympathetic to people with this. I want people to be accessible and be cheaper for them. I literally cover the cost of all the shipping fees to the Kentucky Horse Park for everyone in Kentucky at all of my horse shows. So literally, it's free of charge for people to ship in Kentucky, but I have to pay $35, or I think it's $35 a horse to the Kentucky Horse Park for somebody to ship in for free. So that's costing me money, just so everybody knows. Late checkout fee, same thing. There are millions of pieces of paper that office staff are going through. And if you don't check out on time, that is a nightmare for them. Leash law fine for dogs, those kind of things. USEF fee per horse for competing at a horse show, I believe it's $23 a horse. USHAA fee $10 a horse. USHA show pass fee. So I think if you're not a member, it's $30. You have to pay drug and medical fees. That's just cost $33.
I got 5 minutes left. Sorry to cut you short. Is there anything? Is there much more?
Oh, there's lots more. Yeah, there's lots more. So so now I just dabbled into that. And we can definitely do this again next week and elaborate it and keep people on the line, and maybe they tune back into to hear this
Yeah, I mean,
conversation.
I can talk a lot about all the things you said. A lot of it makes sense, but a lot of it I feel like there's room for improvement from the competitor and professional side.
You mean just take it all away?
No, not at all. I mean, I think there should be a good give and take. I understand this is a business as a show organizer. I understand a lot of show organizers are, like you said, at best trying to break even. It's very hard to make money in this industry from any aspect of it. And so I do think everybody here should run it as a business, but I do not understand some of the fees that were listed.
All right. Well, let's cut it off there.
Okay.
We're gonna do this again next week, Charlie. You're committed? Okay, good. You're on. So we're gonna do this again next week for everybody, because I really want to like hit this hard, because there's so much more conversation around this. I want people to really understand it. I don't want people to feel like we're just charging just to charge. And I promise you, horse show organizers are not doing that. So
And anyone that has questions for me that they want me to ask Derek about horse show fees that I didn't hit on, just send me an email, Charlie and Nicole LLC at gmail.com. And I'll try to
that
bring
was
it up.
risky. You might get a lot of emails, but Nicole might hate you for that one.
That's all right.
But yeah, no, I want to go line by line. I want to go fee by fee. I want to talk through all these things, because I really think it's important for people to understand where we're coming from. It's not easy to just say, a lot of times it's funny. Okay. We have people coming to compete and move to America and everything to compete in our industry, right? From different places around the world. Industries are different in different places of the world, Europe, all over, right? So a lot of people question, like, well, why Europe does it? Why can't we charge 10 euros to show at a great horse show? And
Let's hit on that next week.
that's what I'm saying. This is what
Okay.
what we're gonna hit on, because
Okay.
the industry is different. There's so many other amazing topics around fees that I think it's just so great for people to see our perspective and feel our perspective in order to accept or come to grips with it. So thank you all so much for tuning into another episode of Horse Show 360. This turned into a really good one, as I expected, joined by Charlie Jayne. Thank you so much. We are going to be back next week with another episode where we get into line by line, fees on fees on fees, and what they're for and why we offer them, and how we can adapt and improve and get better for everybody involved. I'm all game to listen. I want my clients and exhibitors to be happy and feel like they get what they paid for. So that's really important to me as an organizer. I know that's important to you, Charlie, as a professional and as an exhibitor. So thank you all for tuning in again to another episode of Horse Show 360 podcast. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button on YouTube to watch full episodes, Horse Show 360 podcast. Follow us on Instagram, Horse Show 360, and tune in anywhere you listen to your podcast, whether it be iHeart, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of the other ones out there. So thank you all again for joining us. We wish you all the best and have a great day.
Thanks.